Big day of news, particularly in foreign policy terms. The ambassador from China has just wrapped up his address at the National Press Club. Our political editor, Andrew Clennell, is with me. Andrew, I've raced back up from the press club, but it was an interesting address in two parts, really. The first half, all about an olive branch and saying we can be great friends and so on. And the second part, really pushing back against any criticism of China and its behaviour.
Well, Kieran, I was going to say that's probably one of the more eventful National Press Club addresses that you've attended in recent times. Taiwan even got compared to Tasmania by the Chinese ambassador to Australia, Xiao Qian, who appeared at the National Press Club today at a pretty incendiary time for China and the West, with the Chinese military exercises in the Taiwan Strait coming after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. The address also came at a time when there are concerns China might establish a military base on the Solomon Islands. Well, he told Kieran China was not intending to do this.
He said that China isn't seeking to be a hegemony or expand a sphere of influence. Is China planning to establish a military base in the Pacific, possibly on the Solomons? And as we look at the human catastrophe in Ukraine, what can the international community, including China, learn from that catastrophe when dealing with Taiwan?
China come to Solomon Islands upon request of the government of that country. And there's no reason for us to refuse to help. But the purpose is help them to stabilize, to prosper, and to improve. There is no intention for China to set up the so-called military base in Solomon Islands.
The ambassador said the current worrying military exercises in the Taiwan Strait are all America's fault.
On August 2nd, the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited China's Taiwan region. This is a serious violation of the One China principle and violation of the provisions of the three China-US joint communiques. It is the US side that should and must take full responsibility for the escalation of tensions in the Taiwan Strait. China is compelled to take countermeasures to safeguard its national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Xiao Qian said an announcement about when the military exercises might end would happen in due course. But he said, make no mistake, Taiwan is China's.
I'd rather not use the word invasion when we talk about China and Taiwan. It's not an independent state. Taiwan is a province of the People's Republic of China. When compelled, we are ready to use all necessary means. As to what does it mean by all necessary means, you can use your imagination. We will never allow Taiwan to be separated from China.
The ambassador indicated trade sanctions against Australia might continue, although he said they were not sanctions, arguing why didn't Australia let the mobile phone provider Huawei in?
Policies taken or actions taken by the previous Australian government on some of the major Chinese companies, Chinese projects, Chinese businesses in this country, for example, Huawei, ZTE, and many other Chinese companies, causing severe damages economically to these companies. Basically, it's been stopped Huawei of any kind of business in this country. And that's a huge disruption to the normal business relations between our two countries.
But as Kieran said, there was some reconciliation within the speech. He pointed out the strength of the Australia-China trading relationship and said that China was not seeking to expand and invade other countries.
China supports necessary reform and improvement to the current international order and system, but China never seeks to start a new one. China will never seek hegemony, expansion, or sphere of influence.
The thing is, according to the ambassador, Taiwan doesn't count as expansion. He said the relationship between Australian and Chinese governments had improved with the election of a new government. He did have a crack at the Australian media, however.
Here in this country, the media coverage on China are mostly not positive, or to be straightforward, are mostly negative.
Well, the Chinese might want to let Australian foreign correspondents back. Channel 9 journalist Chris Yulman had a crack on the ambassador's statements that China believed in international law.
You've occupied and militarised the South China Sea in contravention of international law. Recently, you threatened an Australian Air Force aircraft flying over those waters under rights under international law. Under international law, you've imprisoned our citizens without rights to national justice. Can you see why it might be that some Australians would think that when you talk about international law and positive policies, you do not do what you say?
About the existence of China in these areas and the military existence, I mean, it is the necessary measures we have to take to protect the security of the areas which belong to us. Thirdly, you mentioned about the aircraft incident, about between China and Australia. May I point it out that that incident was very unfortunate. It happened not in the South China Sea in general. It's happened at a particular location. That location is within the territorial space of an island that belongs to China. So it's just like you're in your house, within your compound. Somebody is driving around, carrying a gun, and trying to peep into your window, see what you're doing in your family and what you're talking about between your family members. You feel being threatened, you feel uncomfortable.
The ambassador was also asked about the detention of Australian journalist Cheng Lei. He compared her to Julian Assange.
How are her rights protected? And if China is serious about resetting the relationship with Australia, why won't you release her?
Well, thanks for the question. I understand that any citizen from Australia who is detained overseas should be in a sensitive issue. And just like Assange, or Mr. Pavlov, who's detained in the United Kingdom. The case of Chen Lei, the person you're talking about, is still in the jurisdiction process.
Yeah, quite an eventful appearance there at the press club. We'll get some reaction throughout the program this afternoon.